This is a demonstration of wiring methods number 5. If you're on one of our other classes, you may be referencing back to this. If you're looking to do a light with a pair of three-way switches, we have a home run, which is coming into this switch box. 14.3 is running to our second switch box with our second three-way switch. And then we have a run that goes up to our light. So we're gonna demonstrate that today. So our first step, we've got to get all of our wires stripped back. If you notice, I'm only leaving about 3/4 of an inch or so of wire that still has, or cable that still has the sheath on it, right? We want for most of our wire in this box to be outside of that sheath, and then we want 6 inches of free conductor, right, to work with, so that we have plenty to do the things that we need to do. I'm going to start with our home run in our first switch. First thing I'm going to do is take all of our power carrying conductors. I'm going to pull those to one side of the box, and I'm going to pull my grounding conductors into the middle of the box. And this is going to allow me to, I'm going to begin twisting them. I'm going to take my 9-inch lineman's pliers, grab those copper wires, and I'm gonna spin those bare grounds together. I'm gonna get a good bond between these two wires. Once I have a good bond on those wires, and I want to have 6 inches of free conductor there, then I'm gonna cut the other one off, and then we can add a wire nut. This bond is there's supposed to be some means of bonding these two wires together, a mechanical means of bonds. I'm gonna shove that in the back of the box. Right now all we have is just the copper wire up here. Everything else is back and out of our way. Right? So we need to get from here to our light. We need to get power and a neutral, right? And so we have our hot wire and our neutral wire, right? So our power wire, our hot wire, is what is going to be switched. We're going to switch our hot wire here and here. Our neutral is going to go straight through to the light. So the first thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to take my two neutrals, right? My neutral that's coming from my home run, and then the one that is running towards the light. I'm going to cut those off to the same length, strip off about 3/4 of an inch of insulation. I'm going to line up the insulation, right? I didn't cut these the exact same length, and so I'm not going to line up the end of the copper. I'm going to line up the insulation so that as I begin to twist clockwise, always clockwise, we're twisting clockwise, so that when we put a wire nut on it in a moment and we twist that wire nut clockwise, it's not unwinding what we've done. So as I twist that, my insulation is staying in the same spot. They're close together. I don't have one wire that the insulation is cut way back on that I have bare wire back here. So then I'm gonna cut the end of that off so that it's nice and clean. Take a wire nut, put a wire nut on that, twist the wire nut down, making sure that we've got a good bond. And I'm going to tuck that into the back of the box. Now that is out of our way. Now all that I have are what will be my hot and my two travelers, right? So I have my home run is here, and then these are the two travelers. And so on my three-way switch, okay, this one that's on its own side, no, the common or the hot, the other two are the travelers. They're the two that we're going to send power on. So I'm going to take my home run and attach it here, and then my other two are going to be here and here. We want all these about the same length, right? We're looking for all of them to be about 6 inches, all of them about the same length. We don't want different lengths, so that as we go to tuck, everything back in the box, we've got something that's an oddball length. Stripping the wire approximately 3/4 of an inch. And this is something that comes with practice, right? So we're gonna use our loop to bend our wire over. That one was too far. I can already tell that one was too far. Hopefully I can fix that. There we go. It's something that it takes practice. That one was too far as well. We can use our pliers to straighten that out just a bit. I'm gonna take my hot from my home run. I'm gonna wrap that around my common screw. I'm gonna use my pliers. If you'll notice, they have one side is bent in this way, the other side is bent in the other way, and that allows you to, one of them will grab the wire and the other one will tuck underneath that screw, and you can actually pull that wire, the tip of that wire underneath the screw, and now that wire is not coming off the screw even if I haven't locked it down. Now I'm going to take my screwdriver. I'm using a square tip. These will take a square tip or a flat tip or a Phillips head. The main thing that we're looking for is we don't want it slipping, right? And so this square head, it locks in and doesn't slip. So we don't have any insulation back here. My insulation is beginning to get a little bit underneath that screw head, and so that's a little bit farther than I wanted it to be. But we're gonna call that okay today. I'm going to place the next one underneath it. Same thing, right? I'm clamping that. Right, it's not coming off, even though I haven't even tightened down the screw yet. That's more of what we're looking for, right? Our insulation is stopping just before the screw. Everything is encapsulated. There's no bare wire hanging out of the back of the switch. That's not something that we're looking to have here. That's something that you're going to get counted off for on your grade when I check these things. That's something that if you're an apprentice, your boss is going to make you redo. So we're going to come around to the other side. Now when I flip this over, right, I've had a lot of folks that have the tendency when we flip this one over, they want to flip this wire over as well and come around it this way, right? We are always wrapping around clockwise because we're always tightening down these screws clockwise. Let's tighten this, pull that in. That wire is on there. Even though the screw's not tight, that wire is already wrapped around that screw. Now we're going to tighten the screw down. Once again, the tip of this wire, it's not sticking out beyond the back. Our insulation is encapsulated between the back of the switch and the screw head. Take our bare copper, doing the same thing here. We're wrapping so it won't come off, even though we haven't even tightened the screw head down. That wire is at least wrapped around the screw. Now, if you don't tighten the screw down, you're not going to get a good connection, so it's not going to pass electricity efficiently. But at least it's not going to slip off of it while you're in the process of if you've got 3 things in your hands, you're trying to hold on to the switch, you've got your wires there, and you've got your screwdriver. Like, it's hard to hold all 3 things, but by doing that, the wire stays hooked to the screw so that while you're holding the switch and you're holding your screwdriver, you're not having to fight with trying to hold that in place as well. You only have to worry about properly tightening down your screw. All right, so then we're going to neatly fold all of our parts back into the box. And then you're going to use the screws to screw it down into the box. Then we're going to move to our second switch, right? So our second switch, we're going to do the same thing we did with our first. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull all of my power carrying conductors, right, and pull all of those to one side of the box. I'm going to take my two bare coppers, begin twisting them, get my lineman's pliers, grab a hold of them and twist, right? And this is we're wanting a good mechanical connection. We're wanting a mechanical connection between these two copper wires, right? We're gonna cut one of them off. We're leaving one long, using a mechanical means to fasten the two of those together. So we're using one of these green wire nuts. This is one of the places in the code where what your code enforcement officer says is what goes. A lot of jurisdictions, they don't require this wire nut, and so your boss, the person that you work for, the journeyman or the master electrician that you're working for, they may tell you that this isn't necessary, that you can just twist them together and leave one long, and that is sufficient for their inspector. And if that's the case, right, like, you have to do what the inspector in your area is accustomed to, and what they say is code is generally what goes. So we push that to the back of the box. We've left ourselves about 6 inches of free conductor there. Gonna do the same thing with the neutrals, right? Our neutral's going all the way through. Our white wire's going all the way through to the light. So I'm gonna cut it off with about, we want to leave about 6 inches. We're required to leave 6 inches of free conductor. Stripping back about 3/4 of an inch here. That one's a little short. I'm gonna strip back a little bit more. Twisting them together, right? I'm lining up my insulation, twisting them together in a clockwise manner. I'm not bearing down. I'm not like a death grip on these pliers. I don't want to twist the wire off. I'm using it to twist them together. Those are not coming apart, right? They're mechanically bonded together. We've twisted it far enough so that it's not coming apart. The wire nut is not what holds these together. Our twisting mechanism before we put this wire nut on is what holds these together. Over time with heat, the wire nut may become loose, and we don't want for that to be an issue. I didn't get a proper bond with this wire nut. We're reusing wire nuts for this class, and so that is not a proper bond on that wire nut. I'm actually gonna throw that one away and get a new one. There we go. That's better. I feel better for that. For our demonstration purposes, so now I've tucked those into the back. They're out of the way. Okay, so we have our two travelers that are coming in on our 14.3, and then we've got our hot that's leaving, right? And we want to keep those. We want to make sure we're keeping those separate, right? If we don't have these in the correct order, it may not work properly, right? So we're gonna take and we're gonna come all off about 6 inches. We'll strip all of them back about 3/4 of an inch. Twist all using the hole in our wire strippers. We're going to twist them all over. That one is not exactly where I want it, right? It takes practice, and I'm a little out of practice. So we've got our two. These are our two travelers. I'm bending my hot wire that's going up to my box out of the way so that I don't get it confused, right? We've got our two traveler screws coming in right here. So I'm going to connect this one to one of them using my pliers to tighten down around that. Tightening down that screw. My insulation is beginning to get underneath the screw there. That's a little bit farther than I wanted. I'm actually going to loosen that up and pull this out into a better position and then do that again so that my insulation is not underneath the screw, because we're not going to get a proper bond if that insulation is under the screw. So my insulation is not under the screw, it is between the screw and the back of the switch. this tail that's hanging out the other side, it's not coming near the edge. Those are things that we're looking for. I flipped it over. I'm making sure that I have this wire in the right direction. It's not wrapping this way around. We're wrapping around clockwise. Take our strippers, get in there to tighten that up. You may notice my strippers are painted pink, right? That's so they don't walk away. Nobody seems to want to walk away with a pair of pink strippers, so they stick around longer when they're painted pink. Tightening this down. We're in between the back of the switch and the screw. We don't have any bare wire exposed behind it. Right, now we're going to take our hot wire that's going up to our light. We're going to tie that around this final, our common screw, the hot screw for the three-way switch. Wrap that around. That is not, it's not going anywhere. So now I can hold on to the switch. I can hold on to my screwdriver. I can tighten that down without having to worry about that wire coming loose while I'm trying to tighten this down. If you'll also notice, all of the wire is contained underneath the screw head. It's not squeezing out against these plastic edges. It's all contained underneath the screw head. That's what we're looking for. Now we're going to neatly fold. Oh wait, we've almost. Make sure we install our grounding conductor. Same thing with it. Tighten it with that pair of strippers. Tighten down the screw. Right, so now then we have to neatly fold everything into the box, and then we would run the screws down. I'm leaving these undone so that when you guys come to class on Tuesday, you guys can take a look at it. One thing we've got left here, right, is our lighting fixture, right? It's going to have a set of fixture wires. This one doesn't have a grounding wire. We should also have a grounding wire connect to. Our example here does not have one, so I'm gonna tuck my grounding wire back into the back. But if we were using a fixture, there'd be a grounding wire that we would also install. If you were hooking up multiple lights, like if there are multiple lights that were getting hooked to this circuit, you'd have another wire would come in. We would tie the white wire together just as we've done before. We would tie the black wire together in this case just as we've done before, and we would do that first, right? Because these are solid copper. We could get a solid connection with the stranded wire that you have with a fixture wire. You're not going to be able to twist that in as you're doing your mechanical connection. Then after you have your mechanical connection done with your white wires together and your black wires together, if we were wiring more lights in this series, then you'll come back and twist your stranded wire around, cut off any excess, put your wire nut on it, and this is a place where your wire nut is actually doing part of the mechanical fastening, right? The stranded wire is not as stiff. It's not going to create as strong of a mechanical connection as the solid copper will, and so we're going to be relying on that wire nut to do a little bit of the mechanical connection. This is a place where Wagos can sometimes come in handy because they provide a mechanical connection. So now then we would tuck those back in the box, and we have our light fixture. All right, so with our loop closed, we've got power coming in on our home run. We've got power coming in on our home run. If I flip the switch, our light comes on. If I flip the other switch, it goes off. If I flip the other switch again, it comes back on. Right? Any combination, right? Every time you flip a switch, the light is going to swap from on to off or off to on. The way that we have this wire, that's how the three-way switch works.